Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to this video review of the Corsair Air 240 case. Now I was quite excited to get my hands on this because last time I was building a PC I wanted this case, but sadly it wasn't available at the time that the new Devil's Canyon processors came out, and so I had to make do with something else. Finally though, I've got my hands on it and I can have the chance to actually build a PC in it and let you know whether it is any good. This case is, of course, the smaller brother to the brilliant Air 540 case from Corsair. This is literally just pretty much exactly the same but scaled down a bit, and it supports ITX and M-ATX boards, but of course not ATX boards because it is a small form factor PC. But before we build a PC in this, I'm going to show you the full overview and show you what the case is like inside and out. So let us start with the front of the case. This has two USB 3s. These are actually hooked up with one USB 3 header and one USB 2 header. So I imagine that if you want to use both at the full time, you might lose some speed. But I'm sure a lot of you will know this. If you want to be using loads of high-powered USB 3 devices rather than just plugging something like a memory stick in, then you should be using the back panel into your motherboard anyway. But we have two USB 3s. We've also got a reset button, we've got the reset button, the HDD light and the power switch, as obviously you'd expect, but then we also have a headphone jack and a microphone. Nothing that is particularly extraordinary. I do like to see card readers, but we don't really see that very often, but everything there is as we would expect really. This comes in black or white. This is of course the white version, unless there's seriously something wrong with you and you couldn't work that one out already. And then we have these nice grills here that also let a lot of air in, as well as looking pretty good as well. All the side panels are removable. I'll remove all of those in a minute. This is the clear bit, because this is a dual chamber design. We have the clear bit where we have good airflow, but we also get to see all the nice looking components like the graphics card, the motherboard cooler if you have a decent one, RAM, all of that good stuff we get to see. Round the other side, here, then we have a pretty much plain-ish look. This is because this is where the power supply and hard drive live, so it's, well, hard drives if you have more than one, so it doesn't need to look particularly good. This comes off. This is a magnetic dust filter, which is very good to see, because when you're getting a case, the last thing really I want to do is having to lift it up and take the trays and things like that off. It is good when you can literally just take it off and then clean it, but that probably means that it's more likely to fall off during transport, but that's not really going to be much of an issue for many people. Round the back, it is definitely worth noting now, this does not come with a power supply, but I've got one in there just for demonstration purposes, and I'll talk on that a little bit in a minute later. We've got this bit here, which if we take that off, which I can actually do for you, that is how we access the 3.5 inch hard drives. So this just is two screws, there we go, so just a little metal cover. Then we have all our hard drive bays, which have the classic quick release and quick insertion mechanisms. Wouldn't really want to use anything else these days, there's no need for screws when you're building a PC. Then we have these 4 slots, so if you want to use a motherboard that has a slot in between for SLI and, well, multi-GPU setups, then you won't be able to do that with this case. It's only got the 4 slots for PCIe devices. We've got the motherboard cutout. We've got room for some really tiny fans here if you want to use those. I don't imagine really anyone will do. But then we've actually got a quick release system for the PCIe cards rather than using screws or thumb screws. There's a little clip, and I'll show you that on the inside. You just unclip it, put your card in, and then clip it back down. So there's no need for using any screws. Inserting a graphics card or something like that is completely toolless now. There's not that much else to say on the back, other than every side, like I say, is removable, so we'll do that now. The main side panel access, the actual screws will stay on. Like you see, they won't fall off. This is pretty much completely transparent. I'd call it more translucent actually, really. It's got a slight blue tinge to it, which is going to be great if you're building a blue system, but if you're not building a blue system, then it's going to block out a little bit of light. So if you have some LEDs in there, it's still going to be absolutely fine, but some of you probably will want to know that's got a slight blue tinge to the plastic. Taking the other side off, I think these are the same. I think the screws stay attached. Yep, they do. and then the top comes off as well. So this means that if you're building your PC, it's actually now incredibly easy to do that without any things getting in your way. Now you can see we have the complete shell of the case, and I'll show you better from close-ups what this case is of course like on the inside, but as I am a lone YouTuber with no cameraman, you're just going to have to make do with B-rolls, but I'll make sure they're high quality B-rolls. Looking from this side, the main money side, you can see that we have 3 fans. We have 2 140mm fans here, and then we have one 120mm fan as an exhaust. So if you want to put a water cooler, you can fit a 240 rad up here, or you can put a 280 rad down there. Whatever your preference is, you know, go ahead, do it. This case kind of screams to have some LED exhaust fans up here. If you are using a water cooler, then that obviously might not be the best option because you'll want some fans with high pressure, high static pressure, but maybe you want to use the front. I don't know how you want to build your system. I would probably have the radiator as an intake at the front and then have some nice LED fans at the top that will shine your light down. Here are the headers that I was talking about. You've got one USB 3, all your power, switch LEDs, and then one USB 2. So like I say, you probably won't get all the level of performance that you would do if it had 2 USB 3 headers. But most motherboards don't really have 2 USB headers. It depends what sort of motherboard you're using, so this is more compatible. Right, I'm going to stop rambling now. You can fit a Mini ITX or a Micro ATX board in this case. So we've got plenty of room for cable management, but of course a lot of that starts to dwindle if we are using the larger M-ATX motherboard size. This is the quick release system I told you about. So I've already taken 2 of these out. And if you want to put your card in, you put your card in, clamp it up like that, job done. And we're good and ready to go, and all while keeping your PCIe card nice and safe. There's not that much else to say other than the fact that you'll see that there is a very small hole here for your motherboard cutout area, and that is one of the main compromises we have to make with this case, is that there isn't really any room for putting a water cooler on or anything with a backplate on your system unless you take the 3.5-inch hard drive bay out. That's how you access them. I've already mentioned that, but if we go around to the side, again, it doesn't come with a power supply. I've just put a fairly cheap power supply in here for demonstration. This is completely removable, and then you can access the back plate and actually put some decent coolers on your motherboard that way, but you lose your 3.5-inch hard drives. It might be possible, I'm not entirely sure, it might be possible to actually build a system that has 3.5-inch hard drives and a water cooler in here with a backplate, but I kind of wouldn't advise it because it looks like it's going to be very tricky to do, and it looks like it doesn't want you to do it. So let's definitely look at some forums, look at some people that have tried to build rigs in this case before you purchase it, if you do want the combination of 2.5-inch drives and you also want 3.5-inch drives, because it looks like that's going to be quite tricky to do, if not doable. Not entirely sure, but there's plenty of room here for all your cables. So this isn't a modular power supply. That doesn't look like it's going to be an issue with this case. Talking about the power supply, there's not really that much room width-wise for power supply. Most of them are pretty standard size, but if you get one that's a bit wider than some others, hopefully you shouldn't, but if you get one that's a bit wider, then it won't fit. But you have got plenty of length here if you want to fit a longer power supply in. We've got no we don't, we've got 3 SSD bays here. They're accessible via these quick release SSD bays at the top, which is something I like to see. So if you're going to do a multi SSD setup, maybe you want 2 SSDs, two SSDs in RAID and then 1 SSD, large one for your just standard OS or whatever you want to do, you've got 3 SSD bays there. If you want to do some more SSDs, I'm sure you could stick them down here with some double-sided sticky tape, and then you could fit about 5 SSDs in this case, if not more. You've got a fair amount of room for all your cables when you want to close the side of the case, but due to the nature of this bay here and its dual chamber design, it doesn't look like it's going to be very difficult to close the actual case. On the back of the case, there's literally just this lot of grills here for airflow and not a lot else. And that is pretty much all there is to say about the case just by looking at it. If you have any questions, obviously leave a comment below. But we are now going to build a case. We're going to build a case. Now we're going to build a PC in this case. It's not going to be the highest end system. It's going to be a AMD APU based system, but with a dedicated graphics card as well. If you want to see the whole build vlog video that I'm going to do, if it's live, which it should be within about a day of this video going up, if not already, then it will be overlaid here and also in the description. So have a look for that if you want to actually see this case in action. So like not a novice, far from it, but someone that isn't a professional Corsair demonstration person to actually go through it. So if there are any issues, obviously I'll bring those up along the way. Other than that, this should now cut to the finishing bit where I've finished the case. And so we are back. This is the build completed in the Air 240. Just some quick corrections before going forward. I lied, it is not a 140mm fans on the front, it's all 120mm fans throughout the case. There's also on this side, it looks anyway like there's a fan mount if you take this off here as well. So it looks like you can fit some fans, one 120mm fan there as well. And then the other thing was the front panel. Actually it was a HD audio header. That was me just being a bit silly. So it's just the one USB 3 connected to the motherboard, not any USB 2 headers. So I've built in the case, and actually I was quite impressed with how it all went and how easy it was to build in it. It took about approximately an hour. It would have taken a bit less, but the motherboard that I was using, some of the contacts on the back got a little bit bent, so I had to kind of fish some contacts out of a USB port, which is fun, but everything still works and it's absolutely fine. Because of the chilled chamber design, it actually means that it's really easy to have a nice tidy build in. It was kind of weird doing it in a different order than I usually would, because rather than sort of tidying as I go, I could literally just get everything in the front section, plug it in, and then the back end was just a case of chucking it somewhere, around the back, because there was an extraordinary amount of space. The power supply unit, it's not semi-modular, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. So if you've got a non-modular power supply, then it's gonna be really easy to cable manage. But the only big thing I would say is that I really don't fancy putting a water cooler because of the backplate issue in here, unless I was going to just use solid state drives. I think that would be the main summary. But yeah, it's a really good looking case, and the power button actually lights up as well, which is a nice little touch when you plug it in, and everything seems to work as it should, and everything was really easy to build in, and I actually wholeheartedly recommend this case. The only thing, like I say, is that it doesn't have an optical drive, so if you want an optical drive you'd need an external one. And of course there's that small issue with the fact that the 3.5mm drive bay, is it millimetre? 3.5 inch drive bay, not millimetre, that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? There's only that one issue, so I probably will upgrade this to a dedicated CPU cooler rather than the standard AMD one, because it's a bit loud. But like I say, this is not my machine, this is somebody else, so I have to try and convince him otherwise. Acoustic levels, it's not too bad. Like I say, it is quite loud because of the stock fans, but the fans in the case are really quiet, and other than the fact that this fan here I haven't got plugged in because there weren't enough headers on the motherboard, everything seems to run nice and cool and quietly, and on that front I don't think there's really anything I would change. The only thing I guess I would change about the case is if they could somehow fit a slot loading optical drive piece on the front, that would be helpful, but for the most, for the majority of people I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I think I probably should show you actually what it looks like now around the back, so if I just take this off for you, and then you can see that I really haven't bothered to cable manage at all. This is partly because I've got to put some LEDs in there at a slightly later date, but mainly just because you really don't need to. I mean, look at all that room. Yes, it looks messy, but no one's ever going to see that, and you can still get in and you can do what you need to do. So if I need to put more drives in, then that's not going to be an issue, and if I need to connect like the LEDs with the Molex connectors, I can easily get to them. This is actually it just makes sense, this case design, unless you really need a tower. This is really designed to go on a desk, but it can go underneath as well, and it's not going to look out of place. So I think this design actually it really works, and if it wasn't for that tiny issue with the backplate, then I would say without a doubt, if you're looking at this, go and pick it up. But I think you should go and look at some forums and see what they've said about using a all-in-one cooler and the 3.5-inch drive bays, and then that will probably answer your question if you do want to use both of those at the same time. Other than that, there's not really that much to say, other than it's a good looking case. It's nice and easy to build in for a relatively small case. Because you can take all the sides off, it means you can get your hand through all the different cases, and so like aligning the motherboard and things like that isn't as difficult as it would be in a case where the tops and things didn't come off. And it's got quite a lot of expandability as well. Other than the fact that it doesn't have room for any 140mm fans, there's really not that much I would change about this case. So what do you think of this review? Has it been useful? Has it been good to actually see that someone's built a PC in the case rather than just doing an unboxing? Was it good? Leave a like if it was, dislike if it wasn't. I seem to be out of breath. I have no idea why I'm out of breath. I've been sitting down all day, so sorry about that. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. If this video has been useful and you think you'd be interested in some others, then please subscribe and you'll get videos like this straight into your home feed on your page, and as well as supporting the channel by watching future videos and hopefully enjoying them and getting some knowledge out of them as well. Obviously that is the entire point of the channel. Like I say earlier though, this whole build guide vlog thing should be available on the channel in the next couple of days as well, and if it is, I'll leave a link in the description and hopefully overlaid as well. If not, then just hang on and that should be with you in a couple of days. It's not going to be a full build guide, but it should actually show you how easy it is to build in this case if you want to know more. So thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, I will see you in the next video.